In the present day, Africa is the fastest growing continent in the world. There is the fourth industrial revolution wave going on in Africa that will change the whole outlook of the continent. And do you know who is investing billions to help Africa build its urban infrastructure? China. Chinese funds and companies back a significant portion of African infrastructure initiatives. The annual foreign direct investment, FDI, from China to Africa was $4.23 billion in the year 2020. But why is China investing in the economic projects in Africa? Is it all for the country's economic growth, or does China have political reasons for these special favors? Join us today to learn the big secrets behind China's economic projects in Africa and how China's involvement in Africa affects the U.S. position there. China-Africa economic relations. When colonialism ended in Africa in the late 19teens after the Cold War, Africa started struggling to urbanize its continent. By that time, most of the world was far ahead in urbanization. To catch up with them, Africa needed to act fast and develop the infrastructure of its continent. The infrastructure that needed to be constructed included nearly everything, from factories, railways, roads, etc. A government cannot develop its land just by using the workforce. It needs a vast influx of cash and resources. Unfortunately, African countries lacked both. But in recent years, African countries found a helping hand. China came to aid the African countries and promised them to help build their infrastructure and help them urbanize their lands. The Belt and Road Initiative, also known as One Belt, One Road, or OBOR for short, is a Chinese government-led global infrastructure development strategy that began in 2013 with investments in nearly 70 countries and international organizations. African countries are included in this group. The initiative is a public good for African nations' regional and economic growth. China started pumping resources to Africa. It invested hundreds of billions of dollars and is still supporting to help this previously underdeveloping country catch up with the urbanized world. No other traditional bank was willing to loan money to the African countries because lending money to large infrastructure projects was a huge risk. It was nearly impossible for the African countries to get financed, but China's Export-Import Bank did not care about any of these facts. In fact, the Export-Import Bank of China promised low-interest to no-interest loans to the African countries so that it is easy for them to pay back in the future. China is currently funding more than 35 African countries. Most of the infrastructure initiatives backed by China are concentrated in Sudan, Nigeria, and Angola. These projects are expanding to more and more African countries with each passing day. The economic projects are majorly divided into two sectors: power generation and transport. China has been helping Africa overcome its power shortage by inaugurating hydropower plants and dam production. Two major dams that are under construction now are the Bui Dam in Ghana and the Congo River Dam in the Republic of Congo. Production of these dams is being funded by the Export-Import Bank of China, which is backed by the guarantees of cocoa for the Bui Dam and crude oil in the case of the Congo River Dam. For improving transportation, new roads and railways are being built. China has invested more than $4 billion in African countries' railway and transport sector. This funding includes the construction of 1,600 kilometers of new railway lines and the reconstruction of 1,350 kilometers of existing railway lines. Building modern roads in African countries is also one main motive of China. Africa received $550 million to start 18 projects in its different countries to build new roads and rehabilitate the old ones. China initiates comparatively fewer road projects in Africa compared to other projects. China mainly focuses on the power sector. The power sector received $5.3 billion to build 10 major dams in 9 African countries. Production of new dams also increased irrigation and water supply to the African countries, especially those that receive less rainfall yearly. This eventually increased the fertility of the African land and boosted farming and agriculture. Another big Chinese project in Africa is Nouakchott Port. Mauritania was funded $280 million by China to expand its Nouakchott Port to more than 900 meters. Its expansion increased trading to this African country and lowered Mauritania's supply costs. China also contributes to improving the country's water supplies for social needs. China invested $120 million and then another $200 million in the water supply sector in Africa. The water supply sector includes smaller dams that are not used for generating hydropower and are merely used for water supply. Not only is China investing in African infrastructure projects, but it is also setting up its own companies in African countries. Almost all African sectors have been penetrated by Chinese firms. There are around 1,000 of them functioning in Africa now, with over 1 million individuals of Chinese heritage living there. Many of these Chinese businesses in Africa are privately held, while others are entirely or partially government-owned. Within this system, Chinese companies have a high degree of flexibility to trade in Africa on economic terms and access to beneficial Chinese investment capital. You can get an overall view of the spread of Chinese economic projects in Africa by the saying of Don Roggeveen, who is the founder of More Architecture. He said in an interview, "Right now, you could say that any big project in African cities that are higher than 3 floors or roads that are longer than 3 kilometers are most likely being built and engineered by the Chinese. It is ubiquitous." Many scholars think China is investing in the economic projects in Africa not out of the goodness of its heart, but for political reasons. They believe that China is using these economic projects to influence worldwide politics. They also blame China for colonialism. It means China is giving out loans also to those poor African nations that they know cannot pay back loans. After the coronavirus pandemic, many African countries are under the massive burden of debt they owe China. Some African countries have been repaying China by exporting their natural resources, while others had to do more. Kenya gave up its largest port to China when it could not pay its debt to China. It is a win-win situation for China. Before we talk further on this topic, if you've enjoyed the video so far, consider subscribing, as we frequently upload such informative and educational videos. Let's continue. Is the US losing out to China in Africa? Did you know US exports to Africa have dropped to 1/3 since 2014? The US used to be the biggest trading partner of Africa, but this partnership shifted in the last decades. And guess who the current trading partner of the African countries is? We believe you already know. It's China, obviously. The expanding presence of China and its economic projects is alarming to the US. The US is concerned for its authority and holds over Africa after China started settling in the Dark Continent. When we compare the attention the US gives to the developing infrastructure of Africa to that of China, it is evident who is helping the African continent develop. China focuses on the development of Africa and its infrastructure, while the US concentrates mainly on its own benefits. It wants to improve its exports and globalize its dollar by trading with Africa. When the United States saw China taking hold of African economic projects, it showed more interest in American-African relations. The United States knew that if China controlled the economy of Africa and globalized its yuan, the US would lose its position as the global currency and even superpower. So, Chinese economic interests in Africa began to concern the United States. Take the example of the port of Djibouti. China secured the deal to operate the port of Djibouti, which is important to America's military activities throughout Africa, the Indian Ocean, and the Arabian Gulf. China did this by spending strategically on infrastructures such as an international airport, a presidential palace, and a railroad. The Doralek Container Terminal is a shipping port located on the Red Sea. It may be handed over to Chinese government companies by Djibouti. If this happens, the power dynamic in Djibouti, which contributes to significant trade between the Middle East, Europe, and South Asia, will transfer in China's favor. Camp Lemonnier is a naval expeditionary base of the United States in Africa. It is the United States' sole permanent station in Africa. The US uses the port of Djibouti to access this naval base. DP World, a Dubai-based business, secured unrestricted operations to the United States in and around the port, but the US cannot expect the Chinese to do the same. Additionally, a rumor that the government of China used lasers to blind US military plane pilots is a troubling sign of how the Chinese would treat the US residents in the port. The US plans to counteract China's investment in Africa. As part of its efforts to restore its relationship with Africa and resist Chinese influence, the US has committed to treat the Africa more fairly. In response to China's Belt and Road project, the US proposes to fund many initiatives across Africa under its Build Back Better World Initiative, B3W, which seeks to invest $40 trillion into the poor African countries by 2035. Until last year, the US had only one bilateral agreement in Africa. That was with Morocco. So, if the US plans to counteract the Chinese investment in Africa, it still has a long, long way to go. Do you think the United States will ever be able to gain the upper hand in Africa? Or will China force all the US companies out of the African countries? Let us know your opinions in the comment section below. We will be happy to read them. If you found this video informative and enjoyed the content, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button as well. We would really appreciate the gesture. Thank you for watching.